Hello and welcome to the all new, all different number one comics podcast, issue number 88. Because I have issues, and so does Bob, and so do comics. I'm Dan. That's Bob. Say hello, Bob.
Hello, Bob.
You know, Bob, it's been like an awful long time since we've done it this way. You've been doing the intros now for quite a bit. I can't remember the last time that I did one, so I might be a little bit off my game, but bear with me.
Yeah, it has been a while now that you mention it, but, I figured this is the easiest way to do it.
Bring it back to its roots, right? We're nothing if not progressive. I don't know. I can't think of a term, but yeah.
We're very nostalgic.
Going back to the old school here. Back to the old school. Anyways, Bob, we are the all new, all different number one comics podcast. In this podcast, we talk about a brand new first issue comic book. We break down story and art, give it somewhat of a review, and let you know if we think that you should move on to issue number 2 or not. We also talk a little bit of comic book news, if and when that exists. As Bob always says, if James Gunn doesn't, hijack all the news, which I don't think he quite did this week. I think that we're successful in fighting off James Gunn's news for another week, so that's
I was going to say at least for this week we are.
Yeah, at least for now.
Next week he may steal everything.
He might. I'm just waiting for some more big DC announcements, or obviously some Superman footage or something, and all the news will be stolen, as you know. But for now, we can do some regular news. And we also talk about what's new in shops this and next week. Bob, this week we're going to be doing the all-new number one from Mad Cave. That's where you say, I was going to say, that's where you say the name of the comic, Bob. That's right. The Body Trade, written by Zach Thompson, art by Jock. Yeah, this is an interesting book. I'm excited to talk about it today. But before we do that, we'll take a quick moment's break, and we will be right back. Hello and welcome back to the all new, all different number one comics podcast, episode issue number 88. Don't look at me like that, Bob. It was an accident.
Episodic issues, remember
right?
that.
You guys didn't get the death stare. I did, so I'm scared. I'm gonna make sure I lock my car tonight. That's all. I can lock my front door. I don't need an angry Bob chiming in. But yeah, Bob, it's time for the news portion of the all new, all different number one comics podcast. Let's talk about some news. Nothing groundbreaking, but as you know, Batman Day was yesterday. So today is Sunday, September 22nd. Batman Day was Saturday, September 21st. I thought I'd start off with some Batman news, maybe go into a little bit of what Batman Day is, because if you're anything like me, you might not know much about Batman Day. Like, when did Batman Day start? Like, when did that become a thing? I don't know. I think it's just kind of like an interesting thing that doesn't really get talked about. I don't know, Bob. Do you have any guesses on when Batman Day began?
I mean, the only guess I have is I'd like to say retroactively it was, pretty much because of when, Batman first appeared, and they just did it retroactively because, of course, they would have, done it way back then. So, yeah, sure. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting when we get into it because, I had no clue. But, starting us off, Batman is getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, this is going to be – of course, there's been other fictionalized characters on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Like, I know Bugs Bunny has one. I can't think of who else, but there's, others on there.
I'm sure Mickey Mouse has one.
Oh, yeah, Mickey Mouse, I'm sure, yeah. But this will be the first time that a superhero is getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So a pretty big deal in the comic book world. And this is also going to be a Guinness World Record. So that's super cool, something a little different. As far as Batman Day, though, Bob, just coming from DC Comics website, Warner Brothers is curating, or sorry, I guess at this point has curated a Batman backlot tour and screening. So that's what they were doing this year to celebrate Batman Day on the lot. And they're celebrating DC's Dark Knight Detective with a can't-miss lineup of movie and TV shows, fan activations, exclusive comic books, digital collectibles, action figures, and more. Max also was offering a robust selection of Batman-themed movies and TV shows. And yeah, so just, a lot of Batman stuff, as we know in the local comic book shop. There was a bunch of, Batman books in the shop and all of that. So super cool. I want to talk about just for a second, just because I'm finding it interesting here as I'm looking at it. At Warner Brothers, the studio tour in Hollywood, they're celebrating Batman's 85th anniversary, which I did not realize was Batman's 85th anniversary. It's a pretty big anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bruce Wayne looks pretty good for 85.
I know. Tell me about it, man. I'm barely 40 and I look terrible. So wow, good for Bruce Wayne. So they're doing they've done a after hours Batman tour and movie screening. Warner Brothers Studios Tour Hollywood is calling Batman fans to come help them light up the bat signal and see a special film screening of Tim Burton's Batman on the iconic Warner Brothers backlot. They're going to go behind the scenes with your favorite Batman films and see original costumes, cowls, and Batmobiles. Warner Brothers Studio Tour Hollywood is providing a 1-hour guided tour focused on Batman before the screening. The 1989 movie Batman starring Michael Keaton. Again, this is already done. So, I'm just talking about it in, whatever here. But yeah, it sounds pretty cool. They also lit up bat signals in Rio de Janeiro, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, all over the place. Of course, here in the States as well. Cool. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. Like again, there's too much to really talk about with Batman Day. It's actually a lot of stuff. If you guys want to check it out, just go to DC's blog, dc.com, and type in Batman Day or whatever, and all this stuff will come up. But yeah, really, really cool Batman Day stuff. 85 years of Batman. Very crazy. So again, Bob, just really quick, I want to go into that history because it's not something that I knew about, and apparently you don't either. So the first Batman Day was July 23rd, 2014. And that was the 75th anniversary of the first appearance of Batman in Detective Comics in 1939. And the day was chosen to coincide with San Diego Comic-Con. And
really?
Yeah. And after that, every Batman Day has been the third or fourth Saturday in September. And Batman Day was established by DC Comics and Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment after the very first Superman Day was celebrated, June 12th, 2013, the day that Zack Snyder's Man of Steel debuted in theaters. So yeah, just pretty cool. And like I said, that first one, July 23rd in 2014, every single other Batman Day has been towards the end of September on a Saturday. So yeah, just a little cool history lesson on Batman Day and what Batman Day is, because I just didn't know.
So so you're saying it began in the anniversary year, but it originally got that date because of San Diego Comic-Con?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
That is very, kind of convoluted, now that it's moved to
pun intended.
Now that it's moved to September.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, very. I guess that was just, they figured, hey, we'll have Batman Day at 75 years of Batman. Let's do a Batman Day. And then I think from there they were like, well, let's try to have it around the actual, first publication of Batman when that actually came out in Detective 27. So, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of figured that I didn't know about the San Diego Comic-Con thing, but I kind of figured that ultimately it would have something to do with when the first actual appearance of Batman was.
Yeah, which would make the most sense. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, super cool stuff though. So yeah, exciting. There's probably still some cool Batman books at your local comic book shops you could pick up. But yeah, go check out Batman Day. Again, this is post Batman Day. We're recording this a day after Batman Day, but I don't know. I think you still probably find some cool stuff out there. Sucks if you missed that backlot tour and you wanted to do it though.
So, since this is the day after Batman Day, does that mean this is Robin Day?
I hope so. Robin definitely deserves a day. Why don't we have a Robin Day? I'm sure, in the next 10 years or something, would be a Joker Day. So,
Oh, I'm sure.
Surprised there's not one yet.
I mean, would that be April Fool's Day?
Hey, good one, Bob. I didn't think about that. Yeah, sure would. Oh, I like that. In other news, Bob, Erica Schultz, friend of the podcast and super cool human being. I don't know if you remember talking to Erica Schultz or not, but like Erica Schultz, just really cool. And I actually bought. Erica Schultz does these like cool, like little superhero themed, like kind of like friendship bracelet type of things that she sells on like an Etsy store. And I bought a few from her because they're just really cool. I will try to find a link for that and put it in the show notes. But you guys definitely go check her out and support her. They're like very, very, coming from somebody super cool, and they're very like affordable. I think each one was like $3 or $4 at the time of purchase, and really cool stuff. But either way, Erica Schultz, friend of the pod and super cool bracelet maker, is doing a Daredevil Red Band book. So the Elektra Daredevil, but is getting a Red Band edition. So man, I can't imagine what that's going to entail because, Elektra doesn't really kill that I can think of, but I still am just imagining some like blood and some craziness and some super violence in this book.
Well, I mean, they both wear red outfits.
True.
So,
true.
I mean, they don't necessarily have to kill for it to be a Red Band book.
Yeah, this will be polybagged, and this will be just like, your Wolverine and Werewolf by Night and those Blood Hunt books. So, yeah. Really excited about that. That'll be cool. Another thing that's super cool, Bob. Bob, have you ever read, and this is going to be a 2-tiered question, so feel free to answer, and then I'll ask the next portion of it. But are you a fan of Scott Pilgrim? Did you read Scott Pilgrim? Are you a fan of the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
I never read the books. I always meant to because I love the movie. I know it wasn't, everybody's cup of tea, but I definitely loved the movie. Loved the movie, and I want to say every time I'm gonna get a little graphic here in a way. Every time I have to use the facilities, I look up for a bar. I want that P bar.
Hey, that tracks. Well, for one thing, I'm surprised you haven't read any Scott Pilgrim. Really good stuff. I'll have to lend you my Scott Pilgrim collection down here. I've got it, in the little like manga size trades or whatever. Down here for you to borrow and check out. I think you'd really like them. But yeah, I really like the Scott Pilgrim stuff, and I'm with you. That movie was fantastic. Really, really good movie. I can't imagine anybody not liking that. You'd have to actively try to not like that, I think, because it's just so good and accessible, and it has some great performances. I just like go back to thinking, of course, Michael Cera was really good in it, but Jason Schwartzman, like one of my favorite roles that he was in and stuff. Just really good.
Well, yeah, not only the entire cast, but I mean, look who directed it.
Yeah, exactly.
His movies are always good.
Yeah, fantastic movie. And this is not, again, this is 2-tiered. So, are you familiar? So, Brian O'Malley is the creator of Scott Pilgrim, and writer and artist and all of that on the book. So, did you ever read Brian O'Malley's Image book, Snot Girl?
No.
No, man, Snot Girl's so fun. It's such a cool, weird book, obviously, but a lot of fun. Snot Girl has been on like a hiatus for like a really long time, and I was kind of scared, like, is it ever going to return? Like, what is going on with it? I'm trying to think right now as to like when the last time a Snot Girl book came out, and it's been years. I know that. I'm going to stall for time for just a second and try to look when the last one. Yeah, so issue 15 was published March 11th, 2020. So it's been quite a bit since we've had an issue. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And there was lots of delays in between, that, like, it's like the book was coming out every month at first, I think, and then it started like every other month, and then it seriously went to like every 6 months. Like, it just kept getting further and further behind. And now there's been a big pause, but Snot Girl is returning with issue 16 on December 4th. So I'm super excited about that, Bob. And I think, for you, that gives you plenty of time to catch up and check out those first 15 issues, because I think you should. I think you'd really like it. It's really weird and quirky. It's a fun book, but I'm excited that one is coming back. Really cool. My next little bit of news, it's not, again, news light this week. News is very, very light, so stay with me on this. But Revival, I'm trying to remember the publisher of Revival. I believe it was Image. Yes, Revival from Image Comics. Sorry for the delay on that. Is, of course, we know there's a Sci-Fi Channel adaptation coming, and they have solidified their cast. So Melanie Scoffano, Rami Weltman, David James Elliott, and Andy McQueen will star in the Revival series. I don't know any of those names. I don't know if you know who any of those actors are.
No.
I've not heard of any of them. Yeah, likewise. Haven't heard of any of them, but good for them. I'm excited for that. This is a really cool book, so hopefully, it turns out really good. That's what, it's something like, I don't know about you, but do you ever think back to, some of these things that they've tried to adapt for television, they just really didn't work? Like, for every one that did work, there's like 20 that didn't. And I really think of Y the Last Man. That is, I think whenever I like actually break it down to like what are my favorite comic book runs or whatever, like Y the Last Man is in my top 3. Really, really good. But the TV series just did not work. Like, it didn't resonate with people, and it just didn't come across right. Like, the vibes didn't work. It just didn't work, which is sad because it's such a good book. But yeah, hopefully this one gets it right. Fingers crossed. And yeah, Bob, I hope you go back and read issue 1 of Revival and see what you think about that. It's a really cool book. Speaking of adaptations, and this isn't quite an adaptation, but this is my last little bit of news. If you want to call it news, it's not really news. But of course, Agatha All Along dropped this week. Yeah,
I knew this was coming.
Oh yeah. So it dropped on Wednesday. And here, let me say this. I'm going to start with story time because, why not? I was so stoked, man. Like, I went to bed Tuesday night just like, God, I can't wait to fall asleep so I can wake up and watch Agatha, right? Like, that's all I was thinking. I was so excited for it. Bob, I get up, turn on my TV, scroll over to Disney Plus, and then I get this banner. Agatha All Along, premiering 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I was so pissed. I swear to you, every single Disney Plus show before this had premiered like early in the morning on Wednesday. I just was dumbfounded and very upset, so I had to wait, of course, until that night, which I did. And I watched the first episode and I watched the second episode, and I've watched them a few more times since then. Have you watched any of Agatha yet, Bob?
I have. First 2 episodes.
Okay, so good. We're on the same page here. We obviously don't have to do any spoilers. Let's give everybody time to watch it and everything. Maybe we'll wait to really talk about it until the whole series is out. But just like, do you have any initial thoughts or anything?
Well, first of all, I didn't go into it with the expectations that you did because I knew, all along you were definitely looking forward to this. And I can't say I had low expectations, but I didn't really have, any high expectations. I was just going into it thinking, okay, if it's really good, that's a big bonus. And I have to say, I've really enjoyed the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I'm with you. It is so good. The tone is perfect. I really, I mean, she's just like nailing it. Of course, you would expect her
Yep.
to. I mean, she, came up with the character, but, or, maybe not came up with the character, but I don't know. She created the character through her acting or whatever. But yeah, just wow. I mean, it's really firing. I like the chemistry of Bob. What's her name? Catherine Hahn. Is that her name?
Yes.
Okay, Catherine Hahn and Aubrey Plaza, really good
Yep.
chemistry there. Which I was like unsure of at first. I was like, I don't know, how they'll pull this off. They seem, I mean, they're both good actors, of course, but like I just wasn't sure how they pull off the chemistry there, and they really pull it off in kind of assembling the team and everything. I just really love this. I think it's really really good. Uh, I can't wait to watch the entire thing. It's awesome. I really like it a lot.
It's definitely got a little bit of those, which I love. I mean, I love X-Files. It's one of my all-time favorite shows,
Mm-hmm.
and it definitely has, while not being an X-File clone or anything, it definitely has some of those supernatural vibes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really cool show. Really unique. I don't know. I think that Marvel is really good at doing this. I don't know, just kind of doing something different. And I get that, a lot of things didn't work for certain people. A lot of people didn't love the Miss Marvel show and things like that. But I did. I thought it was really good. I thought the tone was perfect. I really loved WandaVision. The Hawkeye series was really good. There's just some really good stuff in there for everything that people didn't like. I found a lot to like. So I'm really enjoying what they're producing. And yeah, this is really good. I think this is definitely what we needed as fans, with something like this. And they're really pulling it off, at least in these first two episodes. So hopefully that continues. And again, we won't spoil anything, but it's just, yeah, definitely check it out if you can. I think with that being said, Bob, unless you have anything you want to go over, we'll take a quick break. Hello and welcome back to the all different #1 comics podcast. Bob, I almost said podcast comics, but issue number 88. We're falling asleep here, as you can tell probably by the audio. I'm here at the usual recording spot, and Bob is at home, so we're recording remotely. It's a little bit of a different vibe, but that's okay. We'll make it through it, and we will deliver the best product we can. Let's talk about some new books that dropped in shops this week. Bob, from Detective Comics, home of the Batman, we got Absolute Power Super Sun issue number 1. We also got Batman Superman World's Finest issue 31, the debut of new Eclipso powers. Bob, a hardcover of Batman The Long Halloween 13 is dropped, and it looks super cool. Really cool cover there. Like it a lot. It's like a black and white thing with a giant pumpkin in the background with the bat logo on it, and then all the characters and kind of silhouette in front of it. Really cool looking cover. There was a 0 issue of The Last Halloween, a reprint of the Long Halloween Special 2021. And then moving over to some other publishers from Marvel Comics, we got Dazzler issue number 1, volume 3 issue number 1. This is a 4-issue limited series that follows Dazzler on a world tour with Domino, Strong Guy, and Multiple Man as her road crew. I actually read this first issue. I'm a Dazzler fan. This book wasn't quite for me, and I will say, you'll probably know the second I say why. It's just so dialogue heavy. There's so much dialogue. I couldn't quite get through it in an enjoyable pace, but it was really fun when I first opened the book and Dazzler's, popping out on stage and her crew there, which is Multiple Man, who, the perfect person to be like your roadie, like he's like, all right, I got the mics, I got the drums, like he can just do everything, it's no problem. You don't have to hire a crew, you just got one guy. and then strong guy on top of that. So anything, multiple man can't do, strong guy can just go pick up with one finger or whatever. So really, it's a fun book with a cool concept, but yeah, just a lot of dialogue in there. It's my only caveat to that book. Deadpool issue number 6, the debut of Ellie Camacho's Deadpool costume. I don't remember seeing Deadpool on the stands this week, but I'm not like a reading. I'm not pulling Deadpool, so I don't know. Maybe it did come out. We got that Deathlock 50th anniversary special, the first appearance of Rochelle Everetti, a woman who co-created the Deathlock technology. I want to know where the hell this Deathlock special came. I mean, I get it that it's Deathlock's 50th anniversary, but I don't know. The special just kind of came out of nowhere. Kind of weird.
Yeah, Deathlock love right now is kind of odd, considering that seems to be a character. I mean, they used him in, what was it? One of these past Avengers series. But I mean, other than that, I mean, he's been kind of incognito.
Yeah, I would say even if you just mention the name Deathlock or to people who aren't, I don't know, regularly reading Marvel stuff, it's just kind of based on characters they know. They probably won't even know who the character is. So
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Bob, of course, we got that facsimile of Detective Comics 27. Now, when I went to pick up my books at our shop, they didn't have their DC books. There was like a delay in shipment from Lunar. So I was going to pick up a copy of this because it's the, like we said, it's the magazine formatted size, the 7 3/4 inch by 10.5 inch size, facsimile reprinting on that. I don't know. Again, probably not worth the $8 or whatever cover price it is, but I don't know. A cool thing to have. We did get, and I'll show you on the screen, Bob, because I was really excited about this book. It was one I wanted to cover, but we couldn't.
Yes.
I'm honestly happy we didn't, to tell you the truth, because man, I didn't realize that this thing was like a straight up trade paperback. Like, this is a huge issue.
It's a beast. It's a beast.
Yeah, but the book we're talking about from Boom Studios, The Graveyard Club, it is an R.L. Stine and Carola Borelli book. And yeah, R.L. Stine, for anybody who doesn't know, of course, R.L. Stine, the Goosebumps creator, the Fear Street creator, plenty of other things, but very, very well known for being like the Stephen King of like teen, kid and teen horror. Of course, us being, the age that we are, R.L. Stine, Goosebumps, really, really big part of our childhood. The Scholastic book fairs and everything. That's the only thing I bought at those. I don't know about you, but I was like always looking for the Goosebumps books in those. So. Yeah.
My brother he was big into Goosebumps, but I never got into them.
Wow. Yeah, they're really fun, Bob. Really, really cool books. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine trying to, go back at 40, never reading any of them before and trying to read one. They lack a lot of substance, and they whatever. Anyways, this book, The Graveyard Club, it's a coming of age horror series about a group of teens who live in a town surrounded by cemeteries where there's no shortage of eerie occurrences. Of course, like I said, this was, the second I brought this home, I read it. Man, I'm not going to lie. It does that thing that R.L. Stine does. And again, if you're not an avid R.L. Stine reader, you probably won't know what I'm talking about. But it's just, he spends a lot of time on like weird things that don't matter. He's really trying to flesh out these characters where he's not focusing enough on the story, And it's like, all right, I get character development. That's important. It's not that I disagree with you, but at a certain point, like, the story needs to breathe too. Let's let the story happen here. And it's like, it's almost like a series of hijinks. And I get it because, the title is even a reference to the Breakfast Club. These kids are in detention. They're they're kind of like outcasts. They're a ragtag group of kids, and they're dealing with living in this town and dealing with bullies and stuff, and it has this horror element to it. It's a very interesting book. It's not bad. It's slow, but the art is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. It's a really, really nice looking book. If we were covering it for the podcast, and I'm doing my best to not hijack this episode with it, so I'll take a step back after this. But if we were doing it for the podcast, I would say, this definitely isn't for everybody. This isn't, something I could recommend. So, yeah, we'll leave it at that. But we also got from, back over to Detective Comics, Joker, The World, the hardcover. We talked about the 184-page hardcover graphic novel anthology of original stories that showcases the Joker's influence in other countries, including Spain, Germany, Italy, Brazil, Mexico, Czech Republic, Turkey, Japan, Korea, North America, Argentina, Cameroon, I'm not sure what that is, and Poland. It's also got the first appearance of Joker copycat characters from Germany and Turkey. Bob, are you familiar with Cameroon? That's not a place I think I've ever heard of.
Couldn't point to it. I know the country. I couldn't point to it on a map. I know it's in. God, I hope I'm correct in saying this. I believe it's in Africa.
Okay. Yeah, not a place I've heard of. Bob, from Keen Spot, we got Mark Spears Monsters. Man, we've talked about this, in private, and I've mentioned it on the podcast, but I'm really trying to cut down my comic book buying. I used to go in and spend, $200 a week on comic books, and, I try to keep it a little bit tighter lately, so I'm very selective on what I'm buying. I want to make sure it's only what I'm going to read and all of that. And so I passed this book up, and I'm kind of sad that I did, to tell you the truth. I see that at least one cover here is really heating up. It's already hitting $20. It's a nice, Bride of Frankenstein cover. But, yeah, there's some great covers on this. It's got to deal with, monsters and everything. I wish I picked up a copy. I didn't. Good for you guys if you did. Here is another one. This is from Image Comics. Of course, Image, distributed by Lunar. So I didn't get my copy. I'm assuming you didn't either. The Moon is Following Us, #1. This is, of course, a book that is written by Daniel Warren Johnson with art by Daniel Warren Johnson. So for all you Transformers heads out there like Bob, you might want to pick this one up. I don't know. I don't know if it's still around. I heard a lot of people asking for it. This is about, with the help of magical beings, a couple must battle the Cascade, an evil force who kidnapped their daughter. Yeah, I've heard some great things about this book, but I haven't got a chance to check it out. Have you, Bob?
I have not.
Okay. Is that one even on your radar?
No, not really. I mean, as much as I like Daniel Warren Johnson, of course. Mm-hmm. It's. I mean, it was on my radar maybe for a minute, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Back to Detective Comics. Multiverses Collision Detective #1, a 6-issue crossover series with Steven Universe, Adventure Time, Looney Tunes, Scooby-Doo, and more. Super cool book. Over to Marvel Comics, we got Spider-Boy Annual #1, the Infinity Watch Part 8. We apparently got Spider Society 2. I didn't see this. Again,
I didn't either.
Yeah, this might be solicited for the wrong time. But we did get Spirits of Vengeance #1, Volume 2, #1. I did pick this up. This is multiple versions of Ghost Rider versus Vengeance. I haven't read it yet, but it looks really cool. All the Spirit of Vengeance and Ghost Rider stuff lately is just looking so metal and cool. I really like it. Bob, how about Star Wars Darth Vader 50, the series finale?
I have not read it yet.
Gotcha. We also got Star Wars High Republic Adventures 10, the series finale there. From Detective Comics, Superman 18, an Absolute Power event tie-in. Hey, here's something interesting from IDW, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Nation #1, an anthology of stories. Back over to Marvel, we got Venom War Deadpool #1. Venom War Lethal Protectors #1 with the first appearance of Flicker, a symbiote bonded to a host named Lynn. We also got Venom War Venomous #2. And back over to DC Comics, Wonder Woman 13. And finally, X-Men issue #4, the first team appearance of Upstarts 2, a group of mutants assembled by Trevor Fitzroy. Oh, that Trevor Fitzroy. Bob, those are some of the new books that dropped this week. I know that, just a interesting bunch of books. And, two other that I'll just point out. Incredible Hulk, issue 17. Incredible Hulk's been really good. And Ultimate X-Men, issue #7. The Peach Momoko series, really crazy stuff. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk about the Body Trade, issue #1. Hey, and welcome back to the all-new, all-different #1 Comics podcast, issue 88. Because Bob has issues, and so do comic books. Bob, it's time to talk all about the book that we're talking about today, Mad Cave. When was the last time you read a Mad Cave book, Bob? It's probably been a minute.
Oh, wow. I honestly could not tell you. I mean, we may have done one on the podcast early on.
Mm-hmm.
I could be dead wrong about that. I'd have to go back and look.
Go back through the archives.
Yeah, we actually have archives. We've done that many issues.
Yeah. I'm sure we've done a Mad Cave book. Again, I'm not going to waste time trying to look now, but Mad Cave, a different kind of publisher. So let's talk about this book. This is the Body Trade #1. This is, of course, written by friend of the show, Zach Thompson, with art by Jock. It's pretty rare you see an art by Jock book. So
you see covers all the time by
Jock, yeah.
But you never see art by Jock.
Yeah, I agree. So really, really cool stuff here. Let's break into Mad Cave solicit for the book. Kim Kilrick is a divorced ex-con who's trying to atone. However, his short temper tends to get the best of him. When he returns to Florida to bury his estranged son, he's sickened to find an empty grave. His son's remains were sold into the body trade. Armed with a righteous fury, Kim sets out to reclaim his child's corpse. But one act of vengeance causes everything to spiral out of control. The Body Trade is an unrelenting revenge story set against a backdrop of America's aftermarket for dead bodies. Critically acclaimed writer Zach Thompson and star artist Jock team up for this neo-noir crime thriller rife with bloodshed and brutality in the tradition of Blue Ruin and Hell or High Water. So, Bob, we're going to talk for just a sec, as we do, about the creators of this book. Hey, we had Zach Thompson on. Zach Thompson is super, super cool. Really cool guy. Zach Thompson has done Nature's Labyrinth, Blow Away, of course, the most recent book, Blow Away, from Boom Studios. Lonely Receiver. He's done Yondu. He's done Cable. I Breathed a Body. Age of X-Men, The Marvelous X-Men, Her Infernal Descent, No One's Rose, Relay, Into the Unbeing, The Dregs. Man, such a crazy book over there at Black Mask, The Dregs. Also, Hunt for the Skinwalker. Talked about it here on the podcast. I think it was in a bonus episode. Come to Me, Cemetery Kids Don't Die, Guardians of the Galaxy, Edge of Spider-Geddon, Batman the Brave and the Bold, and the list goes on and on. No need to keep talking about that. Jock is a comic book illustrator. He's worked on In Hell We Fight, Duster, Reflection, Mixtape, Merlin and Hector, Zom Vikings, Bob's favorite book, Zom Vikings.
Zom Vikings.
Yeah. Image, the 35th Anniversary Anthology, I Survived, Sea of Dreams, Airboy, Heavy Metal, and the list goes on and on. Bob, I'm going to go into my synopsis because, we always got time for that. The body trade opens. The body trade opens with a man driving a tow truck entering Florida. He shows up at a little boy's funeral and tries to hang in the back until he's called out by a woman giving a speech as he's being, wow, as being, I don't know what I wrote there. And he's called out by the woman giving the speech as being the reason that the boy is dead. Okay, that's what I was going for. The man leaves. He notices no physical proof of his son and demands to know why his body isn't there. He finds a pod where the body should be. And then we flash over to part 2. That's right, there's 3 parts in this book. Part 2, the man shows up at a hospice area of the hospital and finds a woman offering an elder woman to take care of all the expenses and burial for her dying husband if she'll donate his body to their organization for research. The woman agrees. Then the man bursts in asking for his son's body. The woman escapes, and another man who is transporting bodies, with another man who is transporting bodies. Next, we meet the board of Biomed, the company in control of all of this, and we move over to part 3. The dad follows the truck transporting bodies and finds a pool of blood leaking from it. He opens the back door and finds many dead bodies, including his son's. So that's how the book wraps up. Bob, let's get into this thing. Of course, we're going to break it down a little bit. Let's talk about the story. How did the beats in this story work for you? Again, like I said, this is broken down into 3 parts. So it kind of does, the part 1, part 2, and part 3. They're all pretty distinct. How did you feel about the story beats?
I mean, I definitely didn't have a problem with the story beats. I mean, the story moved smoothly for me. I mean, it was kind of weird, the fact that it was done in 3 parts. I kind of feel like this book could have been done all as one just continuous part instead of having to break it up into 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there. I didn't really see the purpose, but I don't think it hurt the book at all. It didn't bother me. It showed the passage of time, I guess, and that's maybe why it was illustrated that way. But I think the beats work because I like the way that we're introduced to the father and the situation. I think that that's intriguing. I like how it's probably going to unfold, to some extent, how the father's involvement in the son's death, because clearly he's being blamed for it here. There was a car wreck or something and the son was on life support for a while or in a coma or whatever for a while and then passed in the hospital. But, I do like how, the portrayal of taking advantage of, people in these circumstances, by this company. These people don't really have anywhere to turn. They don't have a way to pay these medical bills. They definitely don't have a way to pay for the funeral and burial and all of that. And this company, just kind of comes in and is like, we'll take care of all of it as long as you give us the body, So that's pretty twisted. And I kind of like it, in that way. It's pretty strange. I guess overall, while I do think it's weird, it's broken into 3 parts. The beats definitely worked for me fine. I had no problems with the beats whatsoever. How about the dialogue here? Thinking back to Zach Thompson's work, and I haven't read everything. I've definitely read I Breathe the Body because I had a friend who did a cover, and that's kind of what introduced me to Zach Thompson. Was reading that book. So I read that book. I also read The Dregs. Me and a good friend, we're a fan of The Dregs, so we read that. And then we had Zach here on the podcast. We talked to him about Blow Away, and then I really loved Blow Away. Thought it was a really cool book, really interesting. So it's like Zach Thompson's like narrative and dialogue and all that is like very different from book to book. Like he's not not to say that he doesn't have a style, but he's very adaptable for like whatever situation he's put himself in. So, I think back to like something like Hunt for the Skinwalker, which isn't a book that I loved. I'm not going to pretend like I liked it, but it's got a very, very different dialogue and narrative than something like this book. So
yeah, it does.
I'm going to say, the dialogue here is like, it's janky in places. It's a little weird. It's a little like over explaining sometimes and a little unrealistic, but I do still think that it fits the tone of the book. And like I said, I like the way some stuff comes across. I really like the way that the dad just kind of drops in and he's like, shit, I can do this, whatever, type of thing. And then goes to the funeral and then it doesn't turn out well and all of that. Like, I like that part of the dialogue. I like the kind of like biomed, employee coming into the room with the lady and signing away the rights to her husband, and all of that. So there's areas where I think the dialogue really worked, and there's areas where like I was kind of left hanging. But overall, I think the dialogue worked for me. What are your thoughts on it?
See, and I had an issue with the funeral dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't have an issue with his reluctance to actually attend the funeral, or should I say, be talked into attending the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a problem with that. My problem is I just can't see, and I'm guessing that was the mother.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I just can't see the mother doing that, at a setting like a funeral. Maybe after the funeral in private, I could see that. But, again, something like that where you're, remembering your child and all that. I don't know. That just kind of came off as, selfish to me.
Yeah, I didn't love that either. I mean, I'm that's the way it played out. I'm fine with it, but it was very interesting that it was hijacked by him being there. But as unrealistic as it felt, there were callbacks in the book, because whenever he met the biomed employee and asked for his son's remains and everything, she was like, she mentioned something about how the boy deserved better than him and stuff. So there's callbacks to it. They really don't like this dad for whatever reason. Like they really think that he caused this and that it's his fault and everything. I'm thinking that maybe that's not quite it. Maybe we'll find out later that, something else happened or whatever. I'm not too sure, but it seems, there's something about that. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I didn't love the outburst at the funeral. It felt weird. It did feel selfish. It felt odd, but I guess it was supposed to illustrate the fact that, this guy really shouldn't have come around. That's what I'm gathering.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand that, but even still, I mean, just, doing it right there in front of everybody when you're, giving a eulogy. I mean, it I don't know. To me, it just seemed out of place.
Yeah, I can agree with that. How about the narrative of this book? Again, it's broken up into 3 acts. It's a little odd. And again, I don't see it really serving a purpose to the story that much.
Mm-hmm.
It could have easily been done without doing that, but I don't feel like it took away anything from the book. But narratively, I love the way we're dropped in. I think that is probably one of my favorite things. I think that there would be different ways to tell this story, and maybe, obviously providing a little bit of backstory would be one. Maybe dropping us into why the dad is, being accused of everything is one. There's just so many different ways you could have gone about doing this, and the way that they just dropped us in right at the funeral, I thought was a really cool choice. I really liked that narrative choice. I like where it wraps up. I think the second act kind of drags for me, if I'm being honest. Even though it goes by fast, but it still just feels a little draggy, like I'm wondering, we got that weird little glimpse into biomed and everything, and it felt like a little jarring there. I don't have any complaints about the first or third act in the book at all, though. What are your thoughts on the narrative?
The narrative for me, I mean, the only issue I really had is it just seemed like it, took forever to come to a conclusion for me.
Uh-huh.
Like the whole reveal of the bodies and all that. It just seemed like it took forever to get to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, I get the 3 parts and all that, but to me, with this, with the tone of the book and what it was about, just to me, you didn't have to take an entire issue, and then the last page, we see all that.
And here's a question I have for you. Did it feel too predictable? Like, did you know the second that you saw that truck that Christopher's body was going to be in the back of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise. Like, it wasn't a surprise, I was like, no. He's going to open the door and see his son, of course. That's what we're getting at. So I don't know if it was meant to be a surprise or a reveal or anything. I mean, it obviously was to him. Hopefully it wasn't supposed to be to the audience, because I'm sorry, it just was too predictable.
Yeah.
The world building, this is probably a big one here. This one's hard for me because, I feel like the world is very fleshed out here. It's like an alternate reality or something where this kind of thing is happening. They're maybe not an alternate reality, but like a whatever. In this world, this is what's happening. They're taking these bodies and they're going to do whatever they do with them. Of course, that's to be revealed later. We don't know what the purpose yet is, but I liked the world. It's just it feels so synonymous with the art that it's hard to take it from like the narrative perspective for me. And this one, but I feel like the world worked. It's a very realistic depiction of our world. With the only difference being like a truck driving around with a bunch of bodies in it, which, hey, I mean, for all I know, could exist, but I hope not. But yeah, I felt like the world building worked fine, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the world building.
I mean, I'm like you. I mean, for me, they built this world pretty well. I mean, the whole underworld of, or I hate to use the word underworld, but I guess, like you said, taking advantage of people during this time, all that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, I think they did a good job of fleshing out the world.
Yeah, the world felt fine. I just, since this book is so stylized by this art, like, it's just like, I just want to talk about that. It's like, it's hard to not, especially with world building. Let's go over to the characters. Bob, this is going to be, I'm going to say, probably the most divisive thing in this book, and you're either on one side or the other side. That's really what it's going to, I feel like that's what it is. The art is very, very rough. It's very gritty. Gritty is how you would describe this art. It's very, very gritty. It's not polished in the slightest bit. This is not something you would expect to crack open like a, Batman or detective or action comics book or, Spider-Man or anything, and see art like this. This is more of your like lower tier character type of art or something where they're really trying to tell some kind of gritty story or something. But it either, really works for you with the story or it doesn't. How did you feel about the character art?
It honestly, I mean, I appreciated the stylized look, but to me, I mean, the characters just weren't my cup of tea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, there's one few panels in particular where they show, and I can't remember the character's name, but they show the head broker talking to I guess those are the financial guys of this company.
Yeah, I was assuming so.
And it it shows her hands,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it just didn't work because I mean, her hands had that, the actual palm kind of had that bloated look, and the fingers, kind of had that distended, kind of almost broken look to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting character art. It's not. I don't know. I'm pretty conflicted on it, to tell you the truth. I think that Jock definitely executed exactly what Jock was going for. So I'm not going to say that it doesn't work, because it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of taste at that point. And
Yeah.
I do appreciate very stylized and very gritty art. We're both fans of Daniel Warren Johnson, and he does that. As you know.
Yeah.
I'm 50-50 on it. I could take it or leave it. It's not impacting me that much, to tell you the truth. Whereas I think, somebody like Daniel Warren Johnson would have helped me lean over to like I really like this side, or, maybe something, I mean, not polished, but, something with a little less grit to it. I think it's just a little much, but I think, that's the point. I think it's really supposed to illustrate the grit and dirt of this world. And I think it does do that. So I'm conflicted. I don't know if I like it or don't like it in the context, I guess. I guess I'm just going to have to stand 50-50 on it, because it's very hard to make that decision.
Well, yeah. And, all that being said, this goes towards your point a little bit, and it goes to a point that, I've made before. I said all that about the character art.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this is not just the character art, this is the overall art. So, and I'm going to give my opinion on that. I think it fits the tone of the book.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, if it were any other type of book, I probably wouldn't say that, but because of what it's dealing with, I think it fits the tone of the book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So backgrounds are important in comic books. They tell a whole nother story, or they completely set a scene or whatever. We always talk about backgrounds. They're very important to us. You're the background guy, Bob, as you've been known. I say, every book that we cover has to pass your background test. To know if, it. Again, it's a very important part of what you're looking for in a comic. And that can be nuanced, and it differs from book to book, as we've talked about before. But overall, the background has to impact you in some way or another. Is this book, does it have enough to pass your background test?
I'm going to say, yeah. My answer is going to be kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, and this adds to the point I just made. While the backgrounds are definitely not, the best, most polished of backgrounds, which Jock is going for that very stylized look. I understand that, but again, I mean, I think the backgrounds fit the tone of this book, where the backgrounds don't have to be 100% like picture-esque perfect.
I actually really liked them, which was kind of a surprise to me, because there's different scenes throughout this, but there's the like little board meeting scenes and stuff like that, and we get things like you were talking before about how the woman's hands and everything. Now I'm looking at the backgrounds here. There's buildings in the backgrounds and things on the walls and stuff, and it's just like they're like the sketchiest like little afterthought, but like they really kind of work. Like I really like them. It really fits with the tone of the book. I like how things are almost like just kind of thrown in the background there and look like almost undone. I'm looking at some art, in the very first panel of the third act in the background, and it looks like kind of like what a child would do, like in a skyline of buildings, but like it actually does work for this world. It's very interesting. And I think in any other context, it kind of wouldn't work, but it does here. Yeah, so I'm actually going to say the backgrounds are like a win, and they're very weird. Not what I imagined, I would like about this book, but yeah, really, really kind of cool backgrounds. The locations in this book, we go from being on the road to a funeral to a hospital, to I don't know, out in the streets or whatever, kind of some industrial areas. And then we go, I don't know, to some like what I'm assuming is like a little town or something. I'm not sure what that is at the beginning of the third act. I don't know if there was a subtitle on it to illustrate exactly what it was. But yeah, we just get this little town, with like a little strip mall or something, and then a biomed area there, building there. I think the locations work fine. Where they take us and where the story goes and everything works fine. There's not a lot of locations. I pretty much just named everything other than the boardroom.
Right.
But I think it works for the context of this book. What are your thoughts on the locations?
And again, like you just said, I mean, the locations work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they look good. They, help flesh out this world and they build. So I think that works fine. How about lastly, the colors? I'm going to take a look. I don't think we have a designated colorist. I think it's all Jock. Yep, Jock on colors here. So how'd you feel about colors? We have some really interesting tones in the beginning of the book, like this, I don't know, it almost looks like the sun is coming up. I don't know if it's supposed to be setting or what, but we have this like real weird like yellow tone going on over everything. And then we get into some deeper colors whenever we get to the hospital, but it's still very dreary. And then we've got a lot of earth tones for the rest of the book. And then we're kind of at dusk in that last act, and it's very red. I think the colors definitely work for the book. Fine. I don't have any problem with the colors here.
No, I mean, they work for me.
Yeah, likewise. So, we're going to circle around to, the main thing here. Is this enough to pull you in, to make you interested in the second issue, to have you recommend that our listeners pick up this first one, add it to their pool? I'm going to let you go first. I feel like we both have thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
For me, the premise of this book was really, spoke out to me. I mean, I liked, I like the whole thing about, he's looking for his son's body and all that kind of stuff. But again, like I said, to me, it took forever to get to. So this one is kind of a mixed bag. I mean, for me, I can't recommend it for myself, but I could recommend it for a lot of readers, especially if they're, really familiar with, Jock's use of stylized art. And, I could definitely see people enjoying this book, but I just don't think it's for me.
Okay. I'm kind of, on the fence at this point. I think, I'm going to surprise myself whether I recommend it or don't here. I'm quite unsure right now. I will say, I trust Zach Thompson, but I've also been burnt by Zach Thompson. I really didn't like Hunt for the Skinwalker. I didn't think it worked as a story. I think Zach Thompson is a really, really cool guy and a really creative guy, and he takes swings. And I don't have any problem with someone taking a swing and missing, because you're not going to hit 100% of the time. It's just not going to work. And I don't see any problem with that. I don't think we should shame people whenever, they take a swing and it doesn't work. At least you took a swing. It's a lot more than other people are doing. There's plenty of people like you and I sitting on our ass, just talking about if a comic book worked or not, versus out there, doing the work and creating. So I'm definitely not gonna, say anything negative about Zach for that. But I think that this book has an interesting premise. I think it's executed a little bit too predictable for me at this stage. And while I love stylized art and I love grittiness, it like crosses over into like a little too much for me in a lot of places. I'm not going to say that I don't recommend it. I'm just going to, it's got the caveat of, I hate to say this because it seems like cliched or something, but like, you have to be into this kind of thing to like this. This is going to have to work for you as a premise, and check out like some preview of the art. And then if that stuff works for you, then by all means, grab this. I'm going to say I want to wait until the whole story's wrapped up and read it in trade. I think it's only 3 issues, but I would be more interested to read this as an entire story versus single issues if the single issues are going to be anything like this first one.
Yeah.
So that's probably a loaded recommend or not recommend. But I'm going to say don't add it to your pool. Wait for the trade. Unless this just really, really speaks volumes to you, then, hell yeah, go ahead and pick it up. You're definitely supporting a really, really cool creator. And, that can't go unsaid, because Zach Thompson, a really, really cool creator. And like I said, he takes swings. They're not always going to work for everybody. This one didn't quite land for me, but I really would much rather have Zach Thompson out there swinging with things like this than just making the same boring thing over and over again, So I think that's really cool, and I think it's a 2-tiered answer, fitting the theme of this week's podcast.
Yes.
With that being said, we're going to take a quick break. We'll go over some books that come out next week, and we'll wrap this thing up. Hey, and welcome back to the all-new, all-different number one comics podcast, issue 88. Bob, it is time to talk about some new comic books that are dropping in comic book shops next week. Of course, hopefully. Before we can get into, these books dropping or not dropping next week, Bob, you've got an important disclaimer, and I have an important theme song. It's disclaimer time. Welcome to disclaimer time. Gather around for disclaimer time. Eat some cereal and watch cartoons on disclaimer time with Bob.
I like the lyric this week.
Thank you.
You always change it up, and yeah, you do a good job thinking about it right off the cuff.
Yeah, it's like I should plan ahead. I should be thinking like earlier in the day. All right, let me think of some lyrics to this disclaimer time song, and I don't, and then I'm just like, oh, let's do it.
I mean, sometimes it's better to just wing it than actually plan it out.
Yeah.
To where it sounds like you planned it out.
Mm-hmm.
But, like I say this and every other week, these are just some of the books that may or may not be coming out next week.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at you, Lunar.
Yeah.
So if you want a more in-depth list, you can feel free to consult elsewhere. You can call your local comic shop. Please and thank you go a long way in this world.
Mm-hmm.
They may give you a brief synopsis of the books, who they're written by, who they're drawn by, the UPC code. Probably
important.
But who knows?
Definitely. I mean, those numbers are really important, Bob. I would like to hear somebody read those off to me.
They are. You could send a snail mail, John Wick tube system, unicorn, Dan's favorite Harry Potter owl.
Oh yeah, I love the Harry Potter owl.
Anything else this week?
Again, like I don't know. Sometimes I try to go topical, sometimes not. Of course, a bat signal or something like that would work for Batman Day. But what I really wanted to say this time, was it. There would be no problem if you see like a mysterious car driving by your house or something. It's kind of loaded up. Maybe you see a little bit of blood leaking out. Follow that because it could be leading to your local comic book shop, and you might make a great discovery. And when you get there, you can call the police or whatever you got to do, but make sure you get inside and you talk to the local shop owner about those books and let them know, you want to know all the details about them. Let them know that, you want to know who the colorist is on the book. You want to, not enough people talk about those UPCs, Bob. I'm really glad that you brought that up because, to some people, they're just a series of lines and numbers. But to me, it's so much more important than that. It's unique to that book or to that product. So I think that more discussion should be done. We should stop talking in words and start saying, 0013158769293, and stuff like that. I think that, people took a little bit more time memorizing barcodes of things that they liked. You would be able to, form like a society around that or something. You could kind of call like your little group by the name of the barcode, maybe get it tattooed on the back of your neck or something. It's just, there's a lot of potential out there for barcodes. So,
whoa. That's already a video game series. Somebody owns a right to that.
Well, hey, fair enough.
Yeah, we could be the barcode society.
Yeah.
So, starting out the list from Image Comics, we have the Tin Can Society.
Yeah, Bob. This one, we talked about it off air. It was supposed to come out last week, but something happened with the cover, I believe, and it was kind of like recalled for another week. So it's supposed to be coming out this week. We'll have to see if for sure that happens. This one is a tech mogul metal-suited vigilante has been found murdered and his suit missing, prompting his estranged childhood friends to reunite and solve the mystery of his death. So,
yes.
Yeah, very, very interesting premise there. Sounds like a cool book, and it's written by Peter Warren. So, yeah, hopefully it comes out.
Oh, yeah, fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Sticking with the Image Comics, we have Violator Origin #1.
Wow, Bob. Violator Origin 1, a 6-issue limited series that tells the origin of Violator from the perspective of the protagonist. Violator, the Spawn crazy big demon thing. That's just crazy, Bob. This is, one of the first times I can think of a $5.99 cover price on a Spawn book. Usually all settling at $2.99.
So would it be told from the perspective of Spawn?
I guess so.
If it's from the protagonist.
I believe so.
Going over to the publisher with only one character, we have Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween #1.
Yeah, Bob, it's The Last Halloween. I can't believe it. No more Halloweens after this one. This is a 10-issue limited series continuing the story from the Long Halloween special in 2021 and the final installment that began with the Long Halloween 1996.
Woo, that's a lot of Halloweens.
It sure is.
I'm disappointed that this is the last one. Going over to the House of Ideas, Marvel Comics, we have Venom War Daredevil #1.
So Daredevil gets some time in the Venom War beings. This is event tie-in, of course. To Venom War, we've got Daredevil, we've got Elektra fighting off Venoms. Craziness ensues.
It's not Elektra anymore.
True.
Is it? Yeah. So which Daredevil would this be? And
it's got both Daredevils on the cover. Yeah, you're right. It's got both of them on the cover. I don't know. It's convoluted.
Sticking with the House of Ideas, we have the Avengers Infinity Watch Annual #1.
Bob, the annuals back around again, back with the Infinity Watch. This is the finale of the Infinity Watch, so no more Infinity Watch after this Avengers Infinity Watch Annual 1.
This was a longer series than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lots of tie-ins.
And it was told just in annuals. That's pretty cool, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that too.
Going back over to Detective Comics, we have Lobo Cancellation Special #1.
Oh man, a 48-page one-shot that promises chaos, violence, and inappropriateness.
I mean,
yeah.
isn't that just a Lobo comic?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm almost tired of this gimmick. The Deadpool, Harley Quinn, Lobo. Kind of like we're so zany, and wacky, and we break all the rules type of thing. It's just, leave it in the '90s. I'm done with it.
No, they're going to milk it for all it's worth.
Oh yeah, I know.
They're never going to leave it.
You're right.
Sticking with Marvel, we have Venom War Zombiotes number 2.
Yeah, man, the Zombiotes are back. This is an event tie-in to that Venom War. Of course, I'm really digging this because I don't know if you have the cover in front of you, Bob, but it's just insane. You got Iron Man in the background there. Sorry, not Iron Man. You've got Hellcat, just kicking some zombies. You've got She-Hulk just ripping apart a symbiote and ripping the flesh off of someone's head while she's holding back their hair. It's just intense. This is an intense cover, and I really like it, and I want to read this book because I want to watch She-Hulk and Patsy Walker just rip some shit apart.
If I tried to get my leg as high as Patsy Walker, it would fall off my body.
Yeah, Bob, you're definitely no Hellcat, but
no, definitely not. We have from Marvel House of Ideas, one of the coolest titles to come out in a while. We have Phases of the Moon Knight number 2.
Yeah, and this one has the first appearance of a Moon Knight that exists in a gritty, dark future version of the Marvel Universe. I wonder if Jock is the artist on it, but yeah.
Is this gonna be Moon Knight 2099?
It could be. I don't know. Look, maybe you'll open the book and it'll just be Gotham City and just Batman will walk by. Just go ahead and do it.
Ooh. Batman Moon Knight crossover, which
yeah, maybe you open the book and the first page is the Wayne parents getting murdered in Crime Alley, and yeah,
possibly. Going back over to the publisher with, I think they have 3 characters actually.
Mm-hmm.
We have Absolute Power Origins number 3. Man, this seems like it's been going on forever.
Yeah, we're just the Absolute Power just can't stop. This is just a tie into that event. This one's got Amanda Waller all over the cover, so yeah, you know what this book is about.
Sticking with Detective Comics, we have Absolute Power Task Force 7, number 7.
Right? We finally got to issue 7, and the only reason I care is because this is 7/7. It's kind of fun. This is a tie-in to the event. This is a new generation of fighters from every corner of the world that have joined forces to rise up. And wow, Bob, it just, Global Guardians Worldwide Siege.
You sound very enthused.
Yeah, man, I can't do the Absolute Power event. I just can't do it.
Yeah. Going over to Dynamite Comics, we have Thundercats number 8.
Yeah, man, back on the Thundercats. Really excited. First appearance of Apex. It's Apex, a Thundercat. Super cool. This has been a great series so far, and the spinoff series has been great. So, yeah, keep them coming.
Yeah, it really has. Going back over to Detective Comics, we have Power Girl number 13.
Power Girl still exists. Omen's telepathy is threatened by a chance encounter with a new hero. Who could it be, Bob? I bet it's Batman.
Or one of the Batman family.
Bat fam.
And rounding out the list from the publisher with a maximum of 3 characters, we have Green Arrow number 16, another tie-in to Absolute Power.
Yeah, man, just stop tying into this absolute power event, please. Just let it go. No one cares. That's all I can say. Bob, we've got 3 books on the wheel, brought to you by the lovely wheelofnames.com. I'm just going to start lying and saying that we're sponsored by them at this point. Maybe, fake it till you make it, right? Thank you, wheelofnames.com, for sponsoring this episode. We couldn't do it without you. The $5,000 that you pay us every episode really helps us keep the lights on and, here at the podcast. So we appreciate it. Head on over to wheelofnames.com for all your wheel spinning needs. Bob, we've got Knights versus Samurai, issue number 1. Masters of the Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles of Grayskull, number 1. And Goobers, number 1 on the wheel. Really interesting wheel picks this week. Nothing from the big 2. I can't think of the last time that's happened, if ever. I'm going to go ahead and spin the wheel and see where it lands. Bob, it could be anybody's game, but it looks like we are covering, by the thinnest margin I've seen in a very long time, Masters of the Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles of Grayskull, number 1. Wow, Bob.
I'm not gonna lie. I hate being biased, but I was kind of biased on this wheel pick.
Yeah, super interesting pick. It will be fun, and the last time we did somebody with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I don't know that it turned out so great, but we both love He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, so hopefully this one's going to turn out a little better. But hey, with that being said, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, check us out on all the socials. You know where to find us. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. You can use the hashtag AllNewAllDifferentNation to be entered in our weekly giveaway and win a copy of the book that we covered this week. Bob, until next time, we'll see you guys next time. I don't know where I was going for there. Bye.